going live. Hey, good afternoon on a Saturday. Super dumb. Okay, so we are making an Italian white bean soup. My friend Gina gave me this recipe. She pulls stuff off of the internet, stuff that looks interesting to her. Hey, I would love to submit to you. You give me a recipe to try. When I cook on the show, I'm cooking hardcore, forks over knives, no oil, no salt, no sugar. Sometimes I use stuff that I would talk about is not the highest on the hierarchy of health. Canned beans are lower than dry beans and making them from scratch. Having said that, another way, this is an Italian-themed recipe, plant-based redhead. Her blog has amazing recipes on it. I'm going to use her recipe, change it a little bit, and make it for myself. Fasuoli Cu L, I think, but my Italian sucks. So look on the title, and it should be there. That is the name of it. It's based kind of on a zuppa di fagioli. Di fagioli. I think it's how you pronounce it, but that is a pasta-based dish where it has white beans and some of the other stuff. So having said that, we're going to just kind of jump into this right away. I have what's called a mirepoix in French. I don't know what you would call it in Italian. A diced onion, diced couple carrots, and some celery. So basically, I've already got a pot back here with some hot water. The recipe calls for a little bit of oil to saute these in, get them translucent. We're going to use just water. So I'm going to just go ahead and dump in my onions. In the recipe, you're cooking the beans with dry beans. When I'm doing it without all that. I'm going to turn the heat up here a little bit. I've got this kind of down. I was waiting for this to heat up, and then it was getting a little too hot. Once again, I'm going to show you something. I use gas. I think gas is amazing because you can turn it up or down really quickly. Also, I have some water by the side, so I can slow or quicken my cooking time by changing the heat and slowing it down by adding water or turning the flame down. So we're going to let these get translucent and let the carrots cook through a little bit. Then I'm going to add some celery. Then I'm going to add the beans. So in the original recipe, you're cooking your first sauteing your onions and your carrots. You're getting the onions to the place where they're translucent. So we're going to do the same thing. But in the other recipe, you add your dry beans that have been soaked overnight for at least 10 hours. You rinse them, you throw them in the pot, you let them cook for 15 minutes. Then you add the celery, then you let it cook for another 45 minutes. We're not doing that here today. I was thinking about doing it last night, but I worked till past midnight. And I'm like, I am not taking the time to go to the store, buy some dry beans, and have them soaked. So I'm going to talk about the hierarchy of health. Dry beans, for the most part, in Arizona, that's about all we can get. So if you could get beans fresh out of their pods or directly from most beans hang or underground like pinto beans. If you can get fresh beans, that's amazing. I wouldn't know how to cook them. So I'm going to call dry beans the best. Other things, just from the produce department, that's the best. Frozen is probably the next best because they flash freeze those vegetables right away. They usually don't add. A can, here's the problem with the can. It has an inner lining. That inner lining in the past had BPA. That BPA is not good for you. Disrupts your hormones, stuff like that. The lining now is probably a little better, but who knows what all is in there. Also, you get a lot of extra added stuff in there for preservative's sake, for color's sake, those kind of things. But are they the best? Probably not. So I do use canned stuff. It is not the highest on the hierarchy of health. So once again, let's go back over here, look at our stuff as it's cooking. This recipe should take a lot less time than, we're not going to be cooking for an hour for sure. And I try to keep these shows for 20 minutes. So even if I'm not done cooking, I'm just going to put about 20 minutes of content, maybe 25 minutes of content on here. And have you guys follow on. I would also love to invite somebody who knows how to cook to come and cook with me, teach me. If you have an amazing recipe, especially if you are from a different culture, I would love to learn a recipe with you guys. So we're going to just keep cooking this down until it gets nice and soft. Then we're going to add a little bit of the celery. We're going to add the beans. The original recipe is very simple. It's basically a mirepoix with some beans and some salt and pepper. I'm going to add a little bit. So an Italian, if you're making an Italian dish, what I think of Italian spices are oregano, dry parsley, or regular parsley, or even better, Italian parsley. And I'm trying to think of any other spices that I think are kind of, they always use a lot of garlic in Italian. Maybe I'll put some, I have some black garlic here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the pan right now also. Let some of those flavors diffuse with, I love the smell of onions as they're sauteing. I've got a bit of, this is Greek sulavki, which is ginger and, oh Lord, what is sulavki? Spearmint, oregano, garlic, and sea salt, right? So I don't usually add onion. So Greek sometimes has some of the flavors of the Italians. There is a little bit of oregano. That is definitely, in my opinion, an Italian flavor. We're going to get those going. I would like this to get a little bit more translucent. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more. Put this on a 5. We'll get that going a little bit faster. Get that, all those flavors incorporated. We're going to use about we're going to use about a cup of vegetable broth. The original recipe, they use water, then they add vegetable broth powder. I don't know exactly what that is. It sounds kind of like bouillon. I'm sure that they have vegetable bouillon. Maybe they have powder also. I've never used it, so I'm going to just use vegetable broth. You can make your own vegetable broth, but we have, once again, used it here. I think these foil containers are probably a little bit better than a can. Once again, a lot of times they add stuff. This doesn't look too bad on the ingredients for preservatives and stuff like that. So probably not as good as if you made it for yourself from scratch. But once again, I think that there are more vegetables and fruits and seeds and all that stuff you can get in your diet. And if you want to cheat sometimes with a little bit of canned beans, I think that's amazing. If you want to do it from scratch, that's even better. It takes a little bit more time. Let's, I'd like these carrots to get a little bit softer, for sure. And I would like these onions to get a little bit more translucent before I throw the celery in there. The celery is going to cook very quick. So once again, like I said, I would love to have Google recipes. Once again, go check out the original recipe. See how I alter it. Plant-based redhead is the lady who, I don't know the name of the lady. I think it's on her blog. Once again, my friend Gina suggested this. Next week, I'm going to do a recipe that my wife suggested. The recipe, once again, has oil. In my opinion, if you use like Evo, extra virgin olive oil, it's probably the best oil for you. If you're going to add an oil, I think that most Americans get too much oil. When I cook for myself, I cook forks over knives hardcore because I do not do that when I'm out and about. And when my wife cooks for me, she uses some oil. When I go to other places, if I go to, for example, Chipotle, they cook their vegetables, I'm sure, in a little bit of oil. In my opinion, most of that is to save their pot and pan so that it doesn't get black on the bottom. That's the biggest reason. This is starting to look close to translucent. I'm going to throw the celery in here in just a couple more minutes. Then it's just a matter of mainly just getting the heat, the temperature of the soup up. So I'll bring it to a boil. Then I'll probably plate it, taste it. If you're on Facebook, I will definitely put a picture there. I'm still deciding what to do on YouTube for that to make it interesting for you guys. And like I said, I would love to collaborate with somebody who really knows how to cook, and especially somebody who has a recipe that may be more from a certain culture, right? So this is kind of Italian-based recipe. And I think that is amazing. I love Italian cuisine. I love Mexican cuisine. I love most Asian cultures that I've tasted. Right? I love Thai food. So we're going to go ahead and dump our celery in there. We're going to let that cook up a little bit. Then we're going to throw the beans. Like I said, the beans are already pretty cooked. So it's going to take a lot of time out of this recipe from the original. We're going to go ahead and let that cook down just a tiny bit. Then we're going to go ahead and pour in our vegetable broth and beans. And then the soup is pretty much done. I'm going to add a little bit of mustard. Is definitely not necessarily an Italian taste, but I'm going to just put a tiny bit of this mustard powder in here also. Mustard, here's a fun fact. So if you cook broccoli, adding mustard powder to it after you cook it and mixing a little bit in there can bring out a little bit more of the sulforaphane. A lot of times when you cook broccoli, one of the great chemicals compounds in broccoli is its sulforaphane, and that is really good for your kidneys, really good for your health. So if you there's another way, like I think if you chop up the broccoli beforehand, or maybe just reserve some of that chopped up broccoli in the uncooked form and add a tiny bit of that back to the cooked broccoli, you will have more sulforaphane in there. And I don't know all the exact mechanisms, but it's something worth looking into for yourself. Let's see. Let's get these beans. Beans. I rinse everything off really good, even especially when it's in a can. Try to get off some of that extra stuff that is in there. I'm going to go over here to the sink while you guys are and rinse the bottom of these beans because they're kind of stuck in here. And I'm going to get those in the pan also here shortly. Like I said, a lot of that stuff that they add to the beans is not my favorite, but it does definitely take a lot less time when you do it that way. So now we're just going to get this up to a boil. Let me add a little bit more vegetable broth. This should have been about, it's probably a little less than, so this is about 4 cups, one of these foil containers here that you get from the grocery store. And we're going to add a little bit more vegetable broth here. We're going to bring this to a boil. So I'm going to turn this up to the point where I have a boil. Then we're going to just simmer it for a few minutes. Then we're going to plate it, let you guys see what it looks like. We're about 13 minutes here. Like I said, I tried to make the show to where it is about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Once again, like I said, I would love to have you, invite you to cook with me, teach me a recipe. Once again, if you have a recipe that does incorporate oil, salt, sugar, I'm just going to eliminate those things, right? So, and the more it is, so I prefer whole grains, but you see that a lot of times I will not necessarily, I'll use noodles sometimes. So I use it slightly processed, but it is my belief the more processed the food is, the more stuff that they add to it, the worse it is for you. So we're going to put a little bit of pepper in there. I love pepper, so I will probably put a lot more pepper than the average person likes in anything that I make. And I love fresh ground pepper, so I usually buy everything with a grinder. I love that a lot of the spice companies now have, most of them have some sort of grinder with their pepper in their packaging already. So like I said, we're going to bring that to a boil, and then we're just going to let it sit for a few minutes. Very simple recipe. The original has a little bit of oil to saute the onions and carrots and stuff in before you do the rest of it. We'll see how long that takes to get to a boil. Once again, we do these on Saturdays typically, and if you would love to do it live with me, I would love it. Noon Arizona time, Saturday. I would love to invite you to cook with me, teach me something really cool to make. A lot of times, maybe that would allow me to do the prep work while you talk about whatever you're doing. And once again, especially if you have a blog or something that you want to promote, I would love to do that with you on this show. I'm going to put a little bit of this onion that was left in here. Once again, still just waiting for this. I've got this almost as high as it will go. Let's see how long it'll take for me to get this to a boil. Then we'll let it bring down a little bit, just cook for a few minutes. Then I'll plate it. Once again, if I'm on Facebook, I will post pictures on the Facebook channel. On YouTube, I haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet, just because there are different platforms and all that. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, YouTube, whatever platform you are watching this on. And we're going to go ahead and just finish this up. Offline, we're going to show you the final result. I usually take pictures once again in the Facebook group, pop in the plant flavor, just like it is on YouTube, pop in the plant flavor. Once again, I would love to cook with others, and you guys have a great day. Have a great Saturday. Rock on. Stay healthy. Move a little bit, and always have some fun. All right, guys. See you next Saturday. Bye. Let's end it, bro. Let's end it.